from an East Carolina perspective, it's a program that is and will continue to get better under Mike Houston. They've got a lot of familiar names and faces that are still there. But with all respect, isn't this entirely about NC State, this trip?
Narrative-wise, yes. Narrative-wise.
I think the game, too.
So I think it's at the hands of the ECU defense because so much is made of Holton Ahlers and, ECU has some good wide receivers, 2 good running backs.
Yeah.
The belief is sort of you put in this, fun offense. It kind of fits with what your brain always expects from ECU. I think that the ECU defense with, a decent amount of experience might be a little bit overlooked and underrated in terms of how important they are to the Pirates' success, not just in this game, but over the course of the season. And I think it brings it back to, it brings it back to a conversation that we've had, frankly, for like 2 months now, where I look at NC State and I look at the ceiling of the quarterback who throws an amazing ball and takes care of it. Great on third down, great in the red zone, 35 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, almost 3,500 yards. Like all that stuff is all very true. But as a unit, do you think that NC State overwhelms the opponent? Like, is it a really dominant offense?
No, they haven't been.
Yeah, if ECU's defense can cause some trouble, keep this game a little close, prevent, get into a good rhythm, prevent NC State from being able to get a leg up and then ride the defense on their way to a 2-touchdown win, for example. Then you start to bring into factor the intangibles,
right.
ECU playing loose, Dowdy Ficklin absolutely rocking like those. Yeah. That is why I say that the game itself is kind of, I think matchup wise is on whether ECU's defense can cause some problems for Devin Leary and NC State's offense, because I think that ECU's offense, for everything that I said about, it being good skill players, experienced quarterback, and an offense that can be really fun, I don't think they got anything for this NC State defense.
No, that's right. I think NC State's defense is in shutdown mode this week, and I do believe that East Carolina is a much, much better team as they continue to grow, and I love what Mike Houston has done and will continue to do there. My question about State is that in a year like this, being conservative, not taking too many risks, I think's the wrong way to do it. You've got a quarterback as good as Devin Leary. I think they've got tons of wide receiver options, even though they did lose Emeka Emezi and a couple of other guys. But Devin Carter's got to be a guy to take a big step. You got Thayer Thomas. There's other players. You got, what was it, Porter Rooks. You've got guys who can catch the ball and be dynamic. Jordan Houston's a good running back. Tight end position looks like it might be in pretty good hands. Trent Penix came on at the end of the season and looked like a really good option. I think their offense can be much better if they just let it rip. Trust your defense to erase whatever mistakes might happen. So if Devin Leary throws 8 interceptions this year, I'll be okay with it if they are taking a few more chances and trying to be more explosive rather than try to wear teams down. I don't think you're going to beat East Carolina by doing that, but you're probably not going to beat Clemson by doing that. I think you got to be dynamic.
Yeah, you were thinking let the defense clean up any mistakes that the offense makes, and my read on the way that team handles its business is ride the defense and let Devin Leary get us to where we need to go in those crucial situations.
So am I wrong in saying that is not the formula to have a career season?
That is not there's a great comment that has been said by many of my friends who are NC State fans, which is, I wish we started every game with a touchdown deficit. I wish that they had to come into every single game with the kind of urgency that they had when North Carolina jumped out to an early lead in that game at the end of last season. If the kind of urgency that you see when the offense picks up the tempo, starts to move a little bit, when Devin Leary starts to sling it around the yard, starts to trust his instincts and pick apart a defense and utilize, like you mentioned, like, I don't know if wide receiver depth isn't awesome in a lot of ACC schools,
right.
But you are right that especially with Devin Carter as your X, your Thayer Thomas as an inside receiver, Penix as an inside receiver, you've got enough 1, 2, 3 that you can really cause some problems for opposing secondaries. Yep. But sometimes, just running the ball on first down for 3 yards every time
self-check
does seem to make some people happy. It is a way of going about your business. It is a way of going about your business. And look, it has led to a strong 2020 when no one expected it.
Right.
The chance of knocking on the door of 10 wins last season and a victory over Clemson. I mean, what was it? The NC State continued to just find ways to almost lose that game, as they were just holding on so tight all the way to the finish line. I think that this NC State team is very much poised for 9 wins, just going about their business because they're so good defensively, and Devin Leary is such a dude. But if you want to talk about winning an ACC championship, or a top 10 finish in the AP poll, playing in a New Year's Six bowl game, then I do think that there's some steps forward. Look, and this is not an NC State only thing. I have the same criticism for Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. Texas A&M will forever be held back by the fact that Jimbo Fisher has no real plans to innovate and sling it around the yard, that he's just going to ride a really good defense and a future pro or a, pro style game control. Here's the playbook. Here's all of your reads. Don't make any stupid mistakes. Like, Jimbo Fisher is limiting what Texas A&M can do, even though it has elite talent in the SEC. So I'm very curious to see. I don't think that we see the evolution this week. I think NC State wins this game by 2 touchdowns, going about its business. But October 1st, that's not the way to win at Clemson.
I'm going to use a golf analogy. What we're looking for, what I'm looking for, is, you know what? I know it's 240 over water, but I'm going for the par 5 and 2, and I'm not going to lay up to a safe distance and to a comfortable distance and play the wedge game from 100 yards. I'm going to go for the green. And I think what you're saying about State fans is that they'd be okay with a triple bogey start to the Chore Championship if you know that you can come from all the way back, as Rory McIlroy did.
How happy was Adam Gold as Rory McIlroy took that thing down?
I smiled. I did smile. 1,000 smiles. All right. One more thing about the Wolfpack, because this is the way I look at it. The way they have done business before, in terms of not doing too much, will wear them down, as you described. To me, that's a really good way to win 9 or 10 games this year. But I think the way that I'd like to see them go about it, be a little bit more willing to take chances, be risky, is the way to maybe win 11 or 12. Is that fair or no?
Absolutely fair. And let me throw one more note on this. I said that I think NC State will win this game. I do not think it will be easy. I think it will be difficult, and I think it is important to embrace how difficult it is, because I think this is the toughest game NC State plays when you consider location and opponent until that Clemson game.
Right.
And so it's like they need to bleed a little. They need to, like, you want to see them all of a sudden get put in a tough spot and wiggle their way out, because this is going to be the hostile environment. This is going to be an opponent that has raised its level of play. ECU will not play many games better than it's going to play with NC State in town, with all the intangible motivations factored in. And so embrace how difficult it is, because you need that experience before you go to Death Valley.
Final thing for Chip Patterson, CBSSports.com, Cover 3 podcast, my friend. There are 4 non-conference games that are really worth looking at this weekend for the ACC. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on the level of importance, and what do you think the ACC will do in these games? West Virginia's at Pitt tomorrow night. backyard brawl to open up the non-conference season for the ACC. The state trip to East Carolina, the Carolina trip up the mountain to App, and Florida State LSU. How important is it for the ACC to have a good showing? What do you think the ACC's record will be in those 4 games?
3-1. I think Florida State takes the L. I think that Pitt, NC State, and UNC all win. I don't think that North Carolina or NC State wins, as I'm predicting, will do anything, even though they will mean a lot.
Those are good wins
for each of those programs. But if you're talking about national perception, I think that Pitt losing would be a lot of egg on their face, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost feels like Pitt winning doesn't do anything for you. I'm going to add something to your card here.
Okay.
Because what's even more important to me is that Virginia Tech beat Old Dominion.
Okay.
That Boston College does not lose to Rutgers. It's all losable. Like, it's all losing situations. Like, across the board, it's like, well, if you win, everyone says, oh, okay, whatever. But if you lose, then the pile on the ACC starts. So it's not, let's go prove how good we are. It's don't screw it up. Welcome to Don't Screw It Up Week in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Week 1 is Don't Screw It Up Week.